Good morning. Today's date is July 24th, 2015, and the time is 10:02 a.m. We're here for the video deposition of Joseph A. Bianco, D.O. Would counsel please introduce themselves and state whom they represent?
Michael Sawicki and Andy Jones on behalf of the Mejia clients.
Russ Thornton on behalf of Dr. Bianco and his professional association.
Tim Ryan here for Dr. Hamilton and Covenant Surgery Associates.
Eric Hines here for the hospital and Nurse Collins.
And will the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us your full name, please, sir?
Joseph Anthony Bianco, D.O.
And you've been deposed on a number of occasions before, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're aware of what the rules are and what the reason we're here is for today, true?
Yes, sir.
I want to start with discussing with you a couple of things so that I can get on the same playing field and establish some terms and vocabulary and make sure I understand some general principles first, okay?
Yes, sir.
You are a surgeon and you have a practice here in the Dallas area, true?
Yes, sir.
You still currently practice?
Yes, sir.
At the time of the care involved in this case, were you performing a procedure called a laparoscopic cholecystectomy?
Yes, sir.
You're familiar with the standards of care for performing that type of procedure?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that those standards let me start over. Would you agree with me that those standards require a surgeon like yourself performing those procedures to not leave the patient with unintended bleeding after the procedure?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that those standards require a surgeon performing that type of procedure not to cause damage to the hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that the standards applicable to that procedure would require a surgeon, if he or she did cause damage to the hepatic artery, to correct or repair that damage?
Yes, sir.
That allowing the right hepatic artery to continue bleeding poses an extreme degree of risk to the patient?
Yes, sir.
That if appropriate steps are not taken to correct that condition, it is foreseeable to a surgeon like yourself that the patient could die?
Yes, sir.
And that should be, was that the generally understood standard of care and generally understood principles true back in 2014?
Yes, sir.
This is not new medicine or new science. This is something that predates even 2014, true?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that those standards of care would be applicable to someone like yourself?
Yes, sir.
Now, with respect to your care involved in Mrs. Mejia's case, am I correct that you were the admitting physician for her into the UGH, University General Hospital, Dallas?
Yes, sir.
Am I correct that you actually performed a laparoscopic procedure, laparoscopic cholecystectomy on Mrs. Mejia in June of 2014?
Yes, sir.
Am I correct that after that procedure she continued to bleed from the right hepatic artery?
No, sir.
When did the bleed from the right hepatic artery, in your opinion, begin?
In the early morning of 2/27, or 6/27.
Why do you believe the right hepatic artery began to bleed early in the morning on July 27th?
She got up, went to the bathroom, and fell.
And why do you believe that caused the bleed?
Her abdomen struck the toilet.
And what's the basis of that? What's your basis of information for that?
Oh, the patient's father.
Is that recorded in any of the records?
Truthfully, I don't know.
And why do you say truthfully you don't know?
He told me personally.
Did you make a note of it in the records?
I don't know.
Have you reviewed the records?
Yes, sir.
Did you see it anywhere in the records?
Not to be able to tell you straightforward that I saw it.
Can you tell me other than straightforward?
I can only tell you that Miss Mejia's father told me.
Do you recall making any notation to this effect?
I do not remember.
You have an opportunity, have you brought with you the records there in the folder next to you?
Yes, sir.
Have you had an opportunity to review the records before today's deposition?
Yes, sir.
Did you see any notations to that effect in your review of the records?
I can.
No, listen to this question.
Sure. Did you see any notation to that effect in the records?
Not that I know.
Can you refer to something you were going towards a page? What was the page you were going towards?
I have the progress note 6/27, 2014, 5:30 a.m.
All right. Can I, before you do that, is there a Bates number in the lower right-hand corner of that page?
Are you talking about this?
No, that's a different
Yeah.
number from a different set.
We have all sorts of different
Yeah.
numbers, so let me get on the same page as you first. What time frame, what was the, I'm just trying to see it.
5:30.
5:30 a.m., 6/27.
Except that.
Notified.
There you go. I think it's that one right there.
Got it. Okay. So the page you were talking about, Doctor, let me show you this one. Is that the
That's it.
same? Okay. And so that we can
43.
keep track going forward, that's UGH number 43, but I'm going to make it Exhibit 1 to your deposition, so we'll be able to be on the
Where's the
same
number?
page.
We've got different sets of records,
Oh.
okay? And that's, see, you'll see here, just for information, there's a number there.
Oh,
And these are, anyway, it's a long
Okay.
story. Don't worry about it.
So you've got yours and now I've got mine. What is it about this note? The original question was, did you make a notation in the records regarding what you say Mrs. Mejia's father said to you? And then you said something about this note.
well, that was the note that I wrote just before going into surgery. I did not include the fall.
Did you include anything about the fall in any other note?
No, sir.
Do you recall preparing an operative report regarding this procedure?
Yes, sir.
Did you include that information in the operative report?
No, sir.
Let me show you Exhibit 2. You may have that in your notes. It's my understanding that's the operative report on the 27th.
Yes, sir.
Is that the procedure that we've been discussing?
Yes,
The
sir.
second procedure?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any subsequent notes regarding the course of Mrs. Mejia's care?
I wrote the progress note after surgery, the postoperative note, and I also wrote a progress note at 9:30 a.m. on 6/27.
Does that progress report reflect anything about the fall being the cause of the bleeding?
No, sir.
Did you prepare a discharge summary?
Yes, for my time on the case.
Did that,
Where do I find that?
and I have a copy of that, let me hand it to you. Exhibit 3, is this the discharge summary?
There is nothing in the progress note concerning the fall,
And to be,
or the discharge summary.
then the progress note that you were referencing a moment ago, I want to just get on the same page. Which one was that?
Was it 9, I think, did you say, Dr. Bianco? On the 27th?
9:30 a.m., 6/27.
Should be the next page after the last one. It says cardiology at the top.
Okay. I moved through. Is that the one you just showed me?
That's it.
Okay.
Is this it, Dr. Bianco? Isn't that what we were talking about?
Yes, sir.
So I've made that Exhibit 4. Is that the same page that
Yes,
you were
sir.
discussing? And again, that makes no mention of the fall, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other record you believe that supports your contention that the bleeding was caused by a fall?
No, sir.
Are there any other doctors are you aware of that have opined that the bleeding was caused by a fall?
No, sir.
How do you contend that the fall caused this bleeding?
I feel that when she fell, her abdomen struck the toilet.
And how do you believe the abdomen striking the toilet caused a bleed in the right hepatic artery?
Trauma.
Did you make a notation of any external signs of trauma on Mrs. Mejia?
No, sir.
Did you observe any signs, external signs of trauma on Mrs. Mejia?
No, sir.
Did anyone document any bruising, abrasions, or other external signs of injury to Mrs. Mejia?
No, sir.
Did you review the autopsy for Mrs. Mejia?
I did not, sir.
Okay. Are you aware of anyone that has expressed an opinion in preparing the autopsy that she sustained any kind of external injury consistent with what you claim caused the bleed?
I do not know, sir.
Is there any other doctor that you believe will express an opinion that the bleed in the right hepatic artery was due to trauma in the manner you've described?
No, sir.
Have you expressed this opinion to any other individual other than here today,
And you're excluding any.
and to your lawyer?
Yes.
Yes.
Say that again, sir.
Have you expressed the opinion that Mrs. Mejia's bleed in the right hepatic artery was due to trauma she sustained when she fell striking a toilet to anyone other than your lawyer and us here today?
I believe I spoke to Dr. Norman Kopman. But I cannot tell you for sure.
And why is that?
I just cannot recall.
Why would you have been talking to Dr. Norman Kopman about this trauma cause?
Dr. Kopman did an ICU pulmonary consult.
And what is the reason why you believe you might have spoken with him about that?
In discussing the case with him, I possibly expressed that to him.
What, if you do recall, was any response Dr. Kopman made when you brought that up with him?
He was more concerned with the situation of the patient in ICU.
How do you contend a fall of the patient striking the toilet could cause this bleed and leave no physical trace externally behind?
Objection form. Go ahead.
Sure.
She fell, and the entire situation occurred over a 2-hour period. It would not have been feasible to have blood develop that quickly in the belly wall.
And let me object as non-responsive. My question, sir, is, let me ask it this way. You did not observe any external signs of injury, correct?
No, sir.
You did observe?
No, I did not.
All right. Can you explain for me then how Mrs. Mejia could sustain trauma to her right hepatic artery enough to cause a bleed and have no physical signs externally associated with that injury?
The hepatic artery is rather deep in the abdomen,
Right?
and as such would have bled into the area around it and the liver and the colon.
Okay, let me object as non-responsive. My question is this. Do you contend that Mrs. Mejia's body coming in contact with some part of the toilet caused the internal injury to the hepatic artery?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you believe there was any cut that entered the layer of skin on her body associated with that impact?
No, sir, there was no cut.
Do you know what force was necessary for Mrs. Mejia to hit that part of her body to cause enough damage to damage the hepatic artery?
When she fell, she had lost consciousness, fell forward, and struck the toilet.
What part of her body struck the toilet?
More than likely, it was the upper abdomen.
What part of the upper abdomen?
The upper quadrants of the abdomen.
Let me show you a drawing of, it's my understanding, Mrs. Mejia from the forensic services that performed the autopsy. Could you point out on that where you believe she would have struck the toilet?
It would have been above the umbilicus, below the rib cage.
There's an area that indicates, I can't read it, my glasses are at the office. Stepped?
Oh, stapled. I
Stapled.
think is what it says.
Right.
Do you see?
Stapled incision is what I think I'm reading there. Do you see that area?
Yes, sir, I do.
Is that the area that you're indicating?
Yes, sir.
Do you see any indication of other ecchymosis or other signs or conditions in that area other than the stapled incision?
No, sir.
You do notice that the area to the right, pink-purple ecchymosis, you see that?
Pink, purple.
On the arm?
Oh, yes, sir.
Do you see any other indication of ecchymosis on her body?
No, sir.
Okay. With respect to the trauma you contend caused the bleeding of the right hepatic artery, do you see any signs on this chart that are consistent with that trauma occurring?
No, sir.
Can you offer me any explanation for how, again, the hepatic artery is deep within the structure of the anatomy, true?
Yes, sir.
Can you offer to me any explanation based on reasonable medical probability how an injury of the kind you describe could cause deep internal damage but no external damage to the patient?
The trauma occurred at approximately 3 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. By the time we went to surgery, it was only 2 hours. I would not have expected her to show bleeding in the subcutaneous tissues for a longer period of time.
All right, so let me make sure I understand. You believe that the force of the body striking some portion of the toilet was sufficient to transfer some kind of energy deep within the body to affect the bleed of the hepatic artery, true?
Yes, sir.
And you base this on what?
Just what I could figure out at that time.
Okay. Is that a guess on your part?
Sir, at that time, it was, it still is.
Okay. And you've seen no evidence to support this guess that you've made going forward, correct?
No, sir.
No other doctor has shared a similar opinion with you, correct?
No, sir.
Has there been a doctor that has shared a similar opinion and expressed it to you about the cause of the right hepatic artery bleed?
No, sir.
All right. And then with respect to what we're seeing in this autopsy report, there's no physical observations made consistent with this theory or guess that you have about the toilet causing the bleed, true?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are you done with this, or? you want
Yeah.
some?
Yeah, let me borrow it back. And keep the area clean. Any other reason why you believe the fall of the body of Mrs. Mejia striking the toilet caused the bleed that we haven't talked about?
No, sir.
What part of the toilet did Mrs. Mejia hit?
Her father did not state that. We had moved her to the ICU. I was more concerned with her physical findings and the fact of moving to surgery.
So let me ask again and object as non-responsive. What part of the toilet did Mrs. Mejia strike? And am I correct, you have no idea?
No, sir.
Then what part of the toilet did Mrs. Mejia's body strike?
What I thought or surmised was that the upper abdomen hit the toilet.
And I understand that, but what part of the toilet did the upper abdomen hit?
What's it called, the bowl?
Okay. If I have in my mind the type of toilet, I'm assuming a conventional type toilet with a tank that's rectangular, square-shaped in the back, and the bowl, which is the seat area with the lid and the seat in the front. Is that what you're...
That's what I think. It's been a long time since I've been in and seen the rooms.
Okay. And it's your belief that the upper quadrant of Mrs. Mejia's body struck the upper quadrant of Mrs. Mejia's abdomen, rather, struck the bowl portion of the toilet. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
At what speed or force did this impact occur?
I cannot tell you that, sir.
How far away was she when she fell?
I cannot tell you, sir.
Has anyone expressed to you any observation or opinion regarding that?
No, sir.
What is your surmise when you support your guess about what is the cause of this bleed, about how far away she had to be to generate enough force to cause deep internal injury to the hepatic artery?
I can only tell you that I have not thought about that.
Okay. Have you ever seen an injury like that before?
I've seen trauma to the abdomen from seat belts, but not a large number.
In those trauma cases from seatbelts, is there external evidence of the trauma present?
After a longer period of time,
How long?
24 hours approximately.
So we're clear, it's just your best guess that Mrs. Mejia could have fallen somehow, you're not sure, striking the upper right quadrant of her abdomen and causing damage to the deep internal structure of her hepatic artery. True?
Yes.
Do you have any other guesses as to how this bleed occurred, other than that?
No, sir.
When you performed the laparoscopic procedure, was any of that procedure in any proximity to the hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
What parts of your, and we're talking about the original laparoscopic cholecystectomy.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
What part of your original laparoscopic cholecystectomy came in close contact with the hepatic artery?
The hepatic artery lies beneath the liver and the transverse colon. It is right or very close to the area being dissected.
Okay. Let me show you Exhibit 5. You may have it in front of you. I think it's the operative report from that procedure. Could you first confirm that that's correct?
Yes, this is the original, or a copy of it.
Could you go through this with me for a moment and outline to me in the operative report parts of the procedure that would have been in close proximity to the right hepatic artery that you later found bleeding?
The cystic artery, the cystic duct, the liver, and the transverse colon.
Okay, let me go through and mark those just a moment. You said the ligament, the cholecystoduodenal ligament?
Yeah, the cholecystoduodenal ligament.
Then you said the cystic duct, correct?
Yes, sir.
What was the next thing you said?
I said the cystic artery.
Okay, what was the next thing?
It would be the gallbladder, the liver, and the transverse colon.
And this would include the portion, so if we're looking at Exhibit 5, this would include the portions in the findings at operation, if we're going to start there. Am I correct that the laparoscopic cholecystectomy would have involved your operation of instrumentation, surgical equipment, and manipulation in close proximity to the right hepatic artery when you described that you were, quote, using grasping forceps on the body and infundibulum to dissect the cholistic... I was going to get through one of them. Let me start over. Am I correct that your use of surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery would be reflected in the sentence in the findings at operation portion where you describe using forceps to dissect the cholecystoduodenal ligament?
Cholecystoduodenal ligament.
Am I correct that that would have entailed you using surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the next thing that you would have done where your use of surgical equipment would have been in close proximity to the right hepatic artery would have been in the portion of findings at operation where you describe identifying the cystic duct and freeing it by placing clips.
Yes, sir.
And the next part where you would be in close proximity to the right hepatic artery with surgical equipment and steps you were taking as part of this original operation would be where you describe opening the cystic duct and cannulating it.
Yes, sir.
The next part would be with the same predicate where you describe using a catheter and the Reddick forceps, correct?
Yes, sir.
All of those actions that you've just described in this first paragraph would have entailed using your utilization of surgical equipment and using other pieces of equipment to manipulate parts of Mrs. Mejia's anatomy in close proximity to the right hepatic artery. True?
Yes, sir.
So then the next part, the next paragraph talks about the glucagon, if I'm saying that right.
Yes, sir.
That would also involve your operation of surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery. True?
The glucagon is given intravenously by anesthesia.
Oh, you're right. So I had marked something wrongly. So the next part is where you talk about the gallbladder's involvement, correct? The next paragraph?
Yes.
Those steps in the third paragraph of the findings at operation would have all involved you operating surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic duct or artery. True?
Yes, sir.
continuing in that paragraph, the second sentence identifies putting clips on the cystic artery. That would have also included your operation of surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery, true?
Yes, sir.
Then the next thing would be the discussion about moving the gallbladder from the liver bed. That would have also involved your operation of surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So then if we go to the next page, we're talking about these same things in more detail, true?
Yes, sir.
So when we're talking about the second page, am I correct that the first area of the procedure that would involve your operation of surgical equipment and other pieces of equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery would be the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph after the epigastric incision?
Yeah, the fourth paragraph is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the port was placed and in the epigastric incision, and then dissection was carried out.
Okay. So then the next section, the next paragraph, and if we're numbering it, would be the 5th paragraph on the second page of Exhibit 5. That entire paragraph would reflect activities you took in close proximity to the right hepatic artery, true?
Yes, sir.
Does any part of that describe actual involvement of the right hepatic artery?
No, sir.
The next paragraph, 6, would you agree with me that, looking through it, the majority of that also reflects actions you took surgically in close proximity to the right hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
And then if we look at the third page, it's my quick review, but I don't believe that final paragraph reflects any activity other than closing her up. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Those steps would not involve the use of surgical equipment and other material in close proximity to the right hepatic artery because you're external to the patient at this point, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Based on a reasonable medical probability, could the steps we've just talked about also be a cause of injury to the right hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
How can those steps cause injury to the right hepatic artery?
By going more medial into the tissues.
And is that something that surgeons like yourself performing laparoscopic cholecystectomies understood was a reason why you had to use care in operating surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that if you failed to use good surgical technique when performing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, a surgeon could cause unintended harm to the right hepatic artery?
Yes, sir.
And that would include bleeding?
Yes, sir.
Now, with respect to this procedure, you'd indicated that your assistant was Dr. Silver.
Yes, sir.
Who is Dr. Silver?
Dr. Silver is a general surgeon who is a fellow. And I have scrubbed with him for a number of years.
Where is he today?
I believe he's in the Dallas area.
Do you still perform procedures with Dr. Silver?
Dr. Silver has basically dropped off from doing general surgery.
Why is that?
He chose to. I cannot tell you.
When did he choose to drop off doing general surgery?
The last few months.
Does he maintain an office?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Do you know where?
I believe his office is in the professional building at University General, though I cannot tell you for sure.
When was the last time you would have been in contact with Dr. Silver?
I spoke to him by phone approximately 1 month ago.
And what was it you discussed with him at that time?
That he told me that he was stopping general surgery and pursuing emergency room medicine.
Did you have any kind of business relationship at any time with Dr. Silver?
No, sir.
You ever share any office practice or physical space with Dr. Silver?
No, sir.
Ever engage in any other kind of business venture with Dr. Silver?
No, sir.
Was he ever employed with Renaissance?
No, sir. He was a private staff physician.
At Renaissance?
Yes, sir. That was the previous hospital.
And what we're talking about, Renaissance is one of the other hospitals that you've worked with.
It's the same hospital. It has just changed names. Now, Dr. Silver did see patients in my office approximately 10 years ago for about 2 months or so.
And why was that?
He had left an office upstairs in the professional building and was working out a deal with the hospital to rent space.
So with respect to this procedure with Mrs. Mejia, can you tell me why Dr. Silver was involved?
I usually, on elective cases such as that, will often try to have another surgeon available.
And why is that?
Just so that we can practice together, I guess, sir.
And is that because of the workload or the type of procedure or?
No, sir. It's a general surgical case. And I have often had Dr. Silver assist me.
Had Dr. Silver, this was the 27th of June, well, I guess 25th through 28th, if we're talking about the full-time period of June when the care involved in Mrs. Mejia's, in this case occurred. Had Dr. Silver assisted you with any other procedures that month?
Yes, sir, but I would have to go back and check.
Can you give me an estimate of how many procedures that Dr. Silver would have assisted you with that month?
Possibly 2 or 3.
Do you know what kinds of procedures they were?
No, sir, I did not review my log.
Do you have a log that reflects this type of activity?
Yes, sir.
What is that log called?
My log,
And what's in that log, I guess? What is the document?
the cases that I've performed.
Do you maintain that log still?
Yes, sir.
Would you still have the records of that log for the June 2014 timeframe?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any policy about how long you keep the logs?
Since I went into practice,
You still maintain the logs for that whole period of time?
yes, sir.
Okay. Had Dr. Silver assisted you prior to Mrs. Mejia's case in performing any kind of laparoscopic cholecystectomy at the University General Hospital?
Yes, sir.
Had he done that for you, to your knowledge, within the month of June?
I cannot tell you.
Was there any particular portion of the procedure that Dr. Silver would perform versus what you would perform?
No, sir.
How did that work? How was it when Mrs. Mejia came in? What was the work that was performed by Dr. Silver versus the work performed by you in the procedure that we've
Dr.
seen?
Silver would hold the body and infundibulum of the gallbladder or put it on stretch.
Did Dr. Silver operate surgical equipment in close proximity to the right hepatic artery during this initial procedure for Mrs. Mejia?
No, sir.
That would have solely been you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any other doctor like Dr. Silver that would assist you in procedures such as this?
Previously,
Yes, sir.
Elliot Bader, MD, Alex Santos, MD, but I cannot give you the dates when they had assisted me, and that is not included on the log.
Would this, could you, with respect to Dr. Bader, for example, can you give me an indication of what general time frame these surgeries would have occurred in? In other words, was it
The
in
last
2000
3 or 4 years, I had scrubbed with him at other hospitals from about 2001 or 2 through 2014.
What other hospitals had you scrubbed in with Dr. Bader at?
Lancaster Hospital, Lancaster, Texas.
Any others?
That was it with him.
All right. Then the same question with respect to Dr. Santos. Can you give me a general idea of the time frame where you would have scrubbed in with him?
From about 2009 through 2013, I believe.
And was that at University General or other hospitals?
That was at Renaissance Hospital, Terrell, Texas, and Renaissance Hospital, Dallas, along with University General, which is the same hospital.
With respect to Dr. Bader, why have you discontinued working with him?
Dr. Bader no longer does surgery.
Why is that?
He doesn't practice. He gave it up.
Do you know why he gave up the practice?
You would have to ask him, sir.
Okay. And with respect to Dr. Santos, why did that relationship with him come to an end?
Dr. Santos went back to Austin for a period of time. He is now back in the area.
Do you have any plans to begin working with Dr. Santos?
Say that again,
Do you
sir?
have any current plans to begin
No.
working with Dr. Santos?
No.
And do you know where he is currently in the area?
He is at Crescent Medical Center in Lancaster, Pleasant Run Road.
Is he still doing a surgical practice?
Yes, sir.
Do you currently have privileges to admit patients?
No, sir.
How long has it been since you've had privileges to admit patients to a hospital?
September 2014.
Where was the last hospital that you had privileges?
That was at Crescent Medical Center, Lancaster. I was working the emergency room.
And when were your privileges there terminated?
September 2014.
Why were those privileges terminated?
The hospital changed ER groups, and they wanted totally new physicians working there.
Who would have been your supervisor at Crescent?
Objection form.
I can't remember her name.
What would have been her title?
She was head of the emergency room. ER director, I guess you would say.
Were you working as a general surgeon during this time?
No, sir. I was working as an ER physician.
When was the last time you worked as a general surgeon?
June 2014.
And was Ms. Mejia's surgery the last surgery you performed?
Yes, sir.
Why have you ceased to do general surgery practice?
At this time, by choice.
What's the choice?
I chose not to do it.
And why is that?
I was enjoying emergency room practice more.
And why were you enjoying the ER practice more?
I can only tell you that I had always had a general practice up until the government changed. And when I was working the emergency room, it was very similar to family practice, and I enjoyed it.
How long before Mrs. Mejia's surgery had you been contemplating getting out of the general surgery area of medicine?
I had never thought about it so that I could give you an actual date.
And what was it about the government change that what government change are you referencing?
The government changed the payments. Government took a long period of time to pay. And when you work emergency rooms, the pay is there. It comes at a certain time, you receive your payment, and you go on.
Are you currently working as an ER physician?
I am applying to different areas to work. I am also going in to work family practice in Oak Cliff.
Well, let me back up. Are you working anywhere currently as an ER doctor?
No, sir, though the applications are out.
When was the last time you worked as an ER doctor anywhere?
June of 2015.
So just last month.
Yes, sir.
Where was it you were working as an ER doctor last month?
Crescent Medical Center, Pleasant Run Road, Lancaster.
That's the same facility you told me about a moment ago.
Yes, sir.
And the reason that you left there was that they changed
right, but they needed fill in.
Have you worked as a family doctor in a family practice?
In the past,
You mentioned a moment ago that you were applying to different areas to work and also working at a family practice in Oak Cliff.
yes.
What is the family practice in Oak Cliff?
It is a family place, I believe. I have just spoken to the physician yesterday, and I am getting ready to have everything sent over to him that he wanted.
So who is the doctor you spoke with yesterday?
Daniel Metzger.
Are you actually employed in a family practice environment currently?
No, sir.
Have you been employed in a family practice at some earlier date?
I had a family practice from 1976 through approximately 1995 or 96.
Okay. Since 1995 or 96, had you worked with anyone else in a family practice context?
I would cover different physicians at different times, like on holidays or if they went on a vacation.
So a locum tenens or a fill-in type position?
Yes.
Other than that, had you ever, between 95, 96 and the present date, have you ever been engaged in a family practice where that was your focus of practice?
No, sir. It was
So, sitting here today, are you practicing medicine for any hospital, clinic, or practice?
not right at this moment.
Okay, and sitting today going backwards, when was the last time you were employed in any way, shape, or form in providing medical care?
June of 2015.
And was that on a part-time basis?
Yes, sir.
How often in June of 2015 would you have been working in a given week?
I only worked 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days a week or 2 or 3 days a month?
2 or 3 days in that month.
How long had you been filling in on a 2 or 3 days a month type basis for the Crescent?
4 or 5 months.
Would that's for that 4 or 5 month time period, would the 2 or 3 days a month be a correct description of how frequently you would work?
Yes, sir.
When was the last time you would have been employed in providing medical services for a 40-hour work week?
I have office hours every day. I have seen patients in my office.
Do you currently have an office?
Yes, sir.
Where is your current office?
2909 Southampton Road, Dallas, Texas.
And is that the UGH Southampton facility?
I have a private office that I own. It is on the campus.
Is there anyone else in that office?
Physicians?
Yes, sir.
No.
Are there any other employees in that office?
Rebecca Morrow.
Who is Rebecca Morrow?
She is my office manager.
And any other individual working in that office other than your office manager?
No, my wife will fill in at times.
how many patients do you currently have?
I cannot tell you truthfully.
Can you give me an estimate?
Truthfully, no.
Is it more than 10?
You mean a week?
Let's start with a week, yes. How many patients do you see
That's
in that
fine.
office?
I may see 5 to 10.
And what types of things are you seeing the 5 to 10 patients for?
Blood pressure, upper respiratory infections, pelvic exams.
Is this a general family practice that you're performing?
It is my routine practice in the office.
And where do you get these patients from?
A number of them are old patients of mine. I still have referrals coming for pelvic and general surgical problems.
Who refers you general surgical cases currently?
Certain internists, certain family practitioners.
Can you tell me the name of any of them?
Dr. Norman Kopman, Dr. Joseph Moran, Dr. Metzger, Dr. Bruce Wardley.
And when was the last time you provided general surgical medical services to a patient referred by any of those doctors?
Are you talking about operations or are you talking about consultations?
Well, let's try consultations first.
Last month?
And now actual operations.
In the office, I've done a few. I can't tell you how many. I haven't done surgery since June of 2014.
Well, what kind of surgical procedures are you performing in your office?
I will do something like vasectomies, skin lacerations, abscesses, lipomas.
Doctor, we've been going about an hour. I'm going to ask if we take a quick break.
Sure.
If that's okay with you.
Off the record, 11:05 a.m.